Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'd first like to note that this is our third time hearing from these witnesses, the second time this Congress, and the majority is likely to make the same assertions that they did last time, to name and shame, just to try and score political points. Meanwhile, we have an SEC chair moving at breakneck speed to propose an historic number of rules, more than the SEC proposed even after the 2008 financial crisis. Yet, this committee refuses to conduct any oversight. Why is the majority unable or unwilling to bring in Chair Gensler? The Senate Banking Committee didn't seem to have a problem getting him to testify. Inflation has outpaced workers' wages for 17 months in a row under President Biden's watch, and America's workforce is paying the price. The majority of U.S. workers' income has fallen behind rising costs. Everyday items across the board keep rising in price. The cost of eggs are up 40%, chicken 25%, bread 16%. Instead of addressing this 40-year high inflation crisis, President Biden and the House Democrats spent last week celebrating their reckless spending and failed agenda, while ironically coincided with the stock market crashing and erasing retirement savings for millions of hardworking Americans. The very same day, the Consumer Price Index numbers jumped to 8.3% over last year. The White House celebrated with James Taylor singing Fire and Rain. Well, let me tell you what, the only fire that's raining down on my constituents in Missouri's 2nd Congressional District is the cost of putting food on their table, of gas in their tanks, and to paying their utilities. 1 in every 6 Americans, over 20 million of them, are in arrears on their utility bills, and we haven't even hit winter. Why aren't we having hearings to address the drivers of inflation? The effect that the $5 trillion in Democrat government spending over the last year and a half has had, or the lack of our energy independence, or perhaps the over-regulatory burden of President Biden's administrative state that honestly adversely affects small community banks even more harshly than those before us today. Recent Consumer Price Index numbers showed inflation is not going away anytime in the near future. Everything costs more now, and low to middle income Americans are hurt the most. Mr. Cesari and Ms. Frazier, in your opinion, I know that the ranking member touched on some of the implications of sustained inflation, particularly on consumers' credit and the economy. But in terms of the level of savings and credit card debt, what are you seeing on the ground from your customers, your clients? Mr. Cesari.
Thank you, Representative. You are correct that inflation is impacting those who can afford it the least. While consumer spend levels in total are about 10% above last year, the things that people are spending money on have changed substantially, from discretionary to non-discretionary items like food and gas, as you mentioned. And I think it's appropriate that we're very focused on inflation because, again, it is most harmful for those who afford it the least.
And are you seeing, in fact, credit card debt go up and savings go down?
Savings levels continue to be above pre-pandemic levels across all stratas of deposit levels, from 2 to 4 times. However, they're stabilized. For 18 months, they were growing each and every month, and they've stabilized the last 3 months. Credit card spend rates continue to be high, and payment rates are actually starting to normalize, but still well above pre-pandemic levels.
Thank you. Ms. Frazier, please.
Thank you very much. I would say that it's early days still in terms of seeing the impact of high interest rates on the consumer in the States. Fortunately, they entered this period with pretty strong balance sheets. But we would anticipate that if interest rates remain high, in order to tame inflation, that we will see greater stress, particularly in the lower FICO scores, in credit, and that we will also see the savings rates coming down further than we have done. I think we're fortunate to have had the consumer in good health entering into this, but we do expect we're going to be in for tougher times ahead.
Well, I thank you. I've run out of time, and I yield back.